This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. Today, an 88-year-old rabbi who's never been to Israel has prevented a new Israeli government from being formed. And we begin with this strange situation because whatever government the Israelis are eventually able to form will decide whether Israel makes a greater effort to accommodate the Palestinians. The rabbi in question is Menachem Schneerson. He lives in New York. But for a handful of religiously fundamentalist Israeli politicians, he is the spiritual leader. And today he derailed one of Israel's leading politicians. Here's ABC's Dean Reynolds.
What was supposed to be a fresh start for Israel turned into a familiar story of political intrigue and betrayal. Shimon Peres, the leader of the Labor Party, was set to win Knesset approval for his new coalition government when the coalition collapsed. Two members of a small religious party allied with Peres broke their agreement and withdrew their critical support. They objected to his talk of compromise with the Palestinians, whose uprising against Israeli rule has just entered its 29th month. The main reason for the defection of the two religious party members was one that left many Israelis grinding their teeth in frustration. The two men were following the wishes of this hardline rabbi, Menachem Schneerson, the spiritual leader of their Lubavitcher ultra-Orthodox sect, a man who lives not in Israel, but in Brooklyn, New York. That is precisely the kind of thing that makes many people here angry. The vast majority of Israelis do not practice their religion. Thousands of them are now demanding restrictions on the powers of small religious parties. They are also fed up with a system which forces the two major parties to make deals with fringe factions in order to govern.
You see what's going on in the Knesset. It's a real circus. They buy people. They buy people to be in the government.
It's a chaos. It's not a political system.
Only God knows probably at this time what kind of government Israel is going to have.
This afternoon, Shimon Peres got presidential permission to try to build another coalition. He has 2 weeks to get it done. Dean Reynolds, ABC News, Jerusalem.
Still overseas, another effort today to make peace in Northern Ireland. The Prime Minister of the Irish Republic, Charles Haughey, went to the north today, where he urged economic cooperation between the British-ruled north and the independent Irish Republic. He was booed by Protestants for his efforts. We have a report tonight about an American effort to make peace in Northern Ireland through economic means and with very questionable results. Through something called the International Fund for Ireland, the U.S. has been spending millions of dollars in Northern Ireland. The question is, what is it getting for its money? Here's ABC's John Lawrence.
Grab the rope. That's it. Up we go.
This is one of the projects paid for by the United States government to help promote peace and prosperity in Northern Ireland.
Come on, quickly.
The Wild Geese Club received nearly $50,000 from the International Fund for Ireland to build this assault course and skydiving complex.
I'm very, very determined that skydiving will succeed, and also that Catholic and Protestants will jump here together as people, not as religions.
About 1,400 projects are funded by the aid program. Some, like this small industrial park, do provide jobs and workspace for Protestants and Catholics from areas with high rates of unemployment and violence. The question is, how many jobs?
There are, in actual fact, 8,000 jobs in the most deprived areas of Northern Ireland, which would not have existed if it were not for this fund.
That figure seems exaggerated to Desmond Wilson, a Roman Catholic priest from Belfast.
It has not created these jobs. What it has done is it has enhanced property. And the property is very often the property of people who can afford to buy money in the usual marketplace.
Lacey's Wine Bar is one example of what Father Wilson calls property enhancement. It was built by property developers with the help of a $100,000 grant from the fund. The bar was sold last week for more than $500,000. The fund is now trying to get its money back. This ice cream parlor was built with over $40,000 from the fund. The property developer who built it happened to be the mayor of the town of Antrim when the money was given. Local critics of the fund say U.S. taxpayers' money is being misspent.
And they were conned by your Agency for International Development, by the Speaker of your Congress, into believing that by building ice cream parlors in Antrim, they would resolve this bloody conflict.
Why are you laughing?
I mean, I didn't know the Mayor of Antrim had got an ice cream parlour. Like, if he did, it wasn't an ice cream parlour for the Mayor of Antrim we were building.
Other grants given by the fund include a car cleaning service for a prosperous automobile dealer, a betting shop and a pub next door, a tourist attraction owned by a well-to-do Irish lord, a hotel swimming pool that was turned into a private health club and closed to the public. Projects to attract tourists have taken the biggest share of the $150 million in American aid so far. Some here believe that the goal of bringing peace through prosperity is being subverted by the rush to get rich from the proverbial pot of American gold. John Lawrence, ABC News, Ireland.
There has been another car bombing in the Colombian city of Medellin. As many as 8 police officers and 5 civilians were killed. The bomb went off as a police patrol drove by. More than 100 civilians have been hurt, many of them seriously. The FBI in St. Petersburg, Florida, has arrested a 3rd suspect in the 1976 murder of the former Chilean ambassador to the United States, Orlando Letelier. Officials say that Jose Suarez provided explosives and other parts for the bomb which killed Letelier in Washington. An American paratrooper has been charged with murdering a Panamanian civilian and beating up 3 others during the U.S. invasion of Panama. One of the incidents is said to involve the shooting of an unarmed prisoner after a civilian car was stopped at a U.S. roadblock. In a moment, the $2 billion challenge to fix 1 million roofs. And later on the broadcast, the rationing of health care in America. That's on the American agenda. And the homey voice that has filled 1,000 rooms.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by today's Chevrolet.
The time has come for a new kind of full-size luxury. The 1991 Chevrolet Caprice. The most spacious Caprice of all time. A quiet place where 6 adults can enjoy standards of luxury they won't find in many more expensive cars. And that, perhaps, is the greatest luxury of all. The time has come for the new Chevrolet Caprice. Prepare to be impressed.
More and more people are finding more and more reasons to choose the Discover card. Here's one. Cash back for every charge. It pays to Discover.
Kmart lets you enjoy beautiful moments with a Polaroid Impulse camera and an AM/FM radio. The quality you need at the price you want, $49.
A good idea gone bad. In the early 1980s, the national fire codes were changed in America. Builders began using a new type of plywood in townhouses and condominiums and other so-called attached dwellings. The plywood was treated with special chemicals to make it fire retardant. As it turned out, the chemical also rotted the wood. Here's ABC's Bob Jameson.
Engineers believe that 1 million housing units like these east of the Mississippi face the growing prospect of damage because their roofs were built with the fire-retardant plywood. The building industry's plywood standard since the early 1980s, because it promised safer and cheaper construction, the plywood was used almost exclusively in townhouses and condominiums, not single-family homes. The plywood is treated with chemicals designed to prevent fires from burning quickly and spreading from one housing unit to another, but it is decomposing under the heat of the sun. This is what the decaying plywood looked like just 3 years after installation. It should have lasted 50 years, according to Marshall Frost, who helped New Jersey residents discover the problem 2 years ago.
Simply what happened is that the materials that have been used to treat the plywood have resulted in a chemical reaction which is causing the plywood to lose its strength.
The plywood was so weak at this Lawrenceville, New Jersey development that a roof gave way. Homeowners with leaks and otherwise damaged ceilings have filed scores of lawsuits.
Homeowners expect when they buy a new home and stretch themselves to that higher price range not to have any trouble in the major systems, in the roof and the heating and so forth for a number of years. And sure, they're angry.
Builders have begun replacing the plywood in housing not yet occupied, but replacing it in occupied homes could cost $2 billion nationwide by one estimate. Plywood manufacturers blame improper installation for the problem, an argument rejected by the builders.
Unfortunately, the builders and the consumers relied on the testing that was done but in fact it was inadequate.
Whoever is to blame, the affected homeowners who live in the Northeast will be hit hardest. They now must also deal with a rapidly declining real estate market where even homes without problems are increasingly difficult to sell. Bob Jameson, ABC News, New York.
On the other hand, here's an idea that seems so logical you wonder why nobody thought of it before. British aviation specialists have mounted a television camera on the tail of an aircraft so the pilot can see what is happening to the plane during an emergency. Here's ABC's Bettina Gregory.
Pilots depend upon instruments. From the cockpit, they cannot see most of the wings, engine, or tail. The new camera is mounted on the tail and gives the crew this view of the engines and tail on takeoff. British experts claim this system could have helped to avert 2 air disasters. Last year, a 737 crashed on a highway, killing 47 people. It is believed the crew switched off the right engine when the left one had the problem. 5 years ago, 55 people died when an engine caught fire on takeoff. The pilot was unable to see that fire right away. The FAA says it will not require the camera on planes in this country because it believes it may be too much of a distraction for the crew. Bettina Gregory, ABC News, Washington.
Some of the other news today: in the Democratic runoff for governor in Texas, the winner is Ann Richards, the state treasurer. Richards won 57% of the vote. The Attorney General, Jim Maddox, 43%. It was a particularly dirty campaign. Ms. Richards said, "I have seen demolition derbies much like this." On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrials lost just a little over a point today, and the trading was slow. More than 1,000 people packed a church in Indianapolis today for the funeral of Ryan White, the teenager who died as the result of AIDS last Sunday. The First Lady was there, and so was the singer Elton John, who had become a friend of the family during Ryan's illness. We'll be back in just a moment.
Smells good.
Like a Carolina pine forest. That's Lysol Pine Action. I cleaned this morning. It disinfects and works fast. But the scent lasts for hours.
It's nice, but how'd they get a pine forest in there?
Lysol Pine Action. The clean of pine every time.
Dull tiles will clear up when you put on a shining face. Your bathroom will cheer up when you put on a shining face.
Want clean that really shines? Lysol Basin Tub and Tile Cleaner lifts soap scum, disinfects too. Lysol Basin Tub and Tile Cleaner, now with an easy spray nozzle.
Put on a shining face.
Oh, what people do to clean tough stains from under the rim. 'Cause for some bowl cleaners, that's a tough reach. But not for Lysol Toilet Bowl Cleaner. Its angle neck easily goes under the rim to wipe out tough stains and germs. So look, all you need is Lysol Toilet Bowl Cleaner, the heavyweight with a powerful new angle on cleaning.
Ford, profiles in quality. Pride.
When you get pride, you get quality.
That's what I said back in '81.
And today we still have that same pride.
And from what we hear, a lot of people think we're doing a pretty good job.
You can hear the quality.
You can see the quality.
You can feel the quality in the way it handles.
Thanks.
That's what happens at Ford, Mercury, and Lincoln when quality is job one.